What's going on YouTube? Sam Hatch, Culturedog, back here with another video, a much delayed update video. I know I've still got a ton of Blu-ray reviews that are in the hopper, sitting in the editing bay, but I've been getting a little flack from, maybe one member in particular, or a few people over on the Facebook, on the Laserdisc Forever group page over there, which I highly recommend you check out if you are a fan of Laserdiscs, and it's a great community, and there's a lot of good sales between members on there that you can find, so you can skip going to eBay sometimes, which is very nice. So yeah, I've got some new Laserdiscs, and some of those are from Laserdisc Forever members, and I figured it's time to do an update, and I'll have another update immediately after this because I just got in some new Japanese discs and some anime discs in particular, so I'll do that as its own separate entity, but let's move on right ahead. And yeah, one of the people that I deal with on Laserdisc Forever is named Maxine, and Maxine is very cool, has a drive for picking up lots, and lives in California where there's easy access to huge lots of tons of discs, and she's always selling a decent amount of stuff. And unfortunately, like, timing wise hasn't always been the best for me, so I feel bad. I'm always asking her to put together some pricing, and I'm like, I can't afford that right now. But two of the things she had recently were on my radar. I'd picked up some Hong Kong stuff from her before, and that's cool because I'm always looking for HK discs of action movies from the 90s in particular. And that stuff's not easy to find, not necessarily because the discs were rare per se, it's just that they were sold for rental and weren't always treated that well. So they are kind of rare or hard to come across now, even though they're not priced rare as like the Iron Giant would be, or some late release Japanese titles. But when I do see them, I tend to jump on them quickly. And I'm also trying to replace some of the films that I had on VHS, which were just Laserdisc dubs, bootlegs that I'd gotten back in the day. So whenever I can find an actual LD copy, I try and pick that up right away. So one of the things she had was killer fun Jet Li flick, Feng sai-yuk, really, really fun, crazy flick about the most outstanding youth of Canton, and he decides to go into a contest to win the hand of the daughter of Tiger Liu, local bigwig, and things get out of control there. His mom is also extremely crazy, and there's some funny hijinks to be found within it. So I need to pick up the sequel too, but super glad I got that. And this, I'd never actually thought I would find. I have a VHS copy of the 2-disc thing. I mentioned in one of my earlier videos that, especially I think it was Maya Laserdisc, would split up a movie into 2 separate Laserdiscs and would sell them separately or rent them separately to like eke a little bit more money out of you. So you'd have to get part 1 and part 2 of a movie that was really just one movie. And I had a VHS dub of that version of this, and actually I guess I don't need it anymore. So if anybody wants it, I might be convinced to let that go. Just as a fun little thing. But it's Jackie Chan's Drunken Master 2, and I thought I would get the 2 separate releases, but this is a special series, the Gold Disc series that Maya was putting out, and it has this kind of unified 2-color look with the gold banner on the top, but it has the disc itself is a gold disc, and it has the entire film just on one, so it's priced and created more for the collectors as opposed to the renters. So super psyched to have Drunken Master 2 in its original version with the original music and the original ending, which I know annoys some people, and the original aspect ratio. And dude, what's not to love? I mean, it's pretty much one of my all-time favorite kung fu films. So super excited, and thanks to Maxine for that. Also picked up a local lot, which turned out to be great for players, not so much on discs. I picked up a ton of players, which actually, now that I mentioned it, I have to do a player collection update, and I should really just go through my whole set of players, because a lot has changed since my last Culturedog Laserdisc player collection video from 2015 or whatever. I just actually sold off CLD D704 and I think 1 or 2 others, but then I've gotten some new ones in, so I'll give a new kind of video of that. But I picked up 3 players and a CD changer that the sellers thought was a Laserdisc player. But cool. I'm down with the Yamaha CD changer too. But they also came with a tub of discs, which was really heartbreaking because it wasn't stored well. It was covered in rat poop and all sorts of just grimy, garagey kind of stuff. And it looks like it had gotten some water damage, and the discs were like stacked poorly, so they were all bent and stuff, and there really wasn't much salvageable out of it, which is sad because I'm a commons guy. I'm not really into the speculators angle of Laserdisc as super collector's items or investments or anything like that, so I'm really not super thrilled about what's going on with some of the late Japanese releases and stuff. I mean, as much as I did pay for Fight Club and The World Is Not Enough, I really wanted to own those films on disc. So the kind of trophy discs thing kind of leaves me cold for the most part. But as Scott Pilgrim might say, I loves me some commons. And the thing was just loaded with all sorts of really cool commons that I would love to have added to my collection. But sadly, it was not to be. But I did get a couple things, and I actually brought a lot of them to work for the work collection. So now I have to film that and show that to you. So there'll be a third Laserdisc collection video later on. But anyways, this I didn't have. They were all originally apparently rentals, because they all had like the stickers on them that the whatever rental facility had. But I didn't have a copy of To Die For with David Cronenberg. Oh, and I guess Nicole Kidman too. I got to take that sticker off still. But this one was salvageable, as was, though I have to check for rot, because this is a Columbia release, I believe, but Body Double, some vintage 80s De Palma cheese, good stuff. And one thing I did end up getting rid of the jacket, but keeping the disc, was Fargo, because my copy of Fargo, like most copies of Fargo, has laser rot, but I found a clean copy. This is actually the old rotted one. I put the clean one in my jacket and took this one out, but I ended up keeping that. And all the other ones from that lot are at work, so I'll show you those a little bit later. But then I got into another collector's deal with another member from Laserdisc Forever, and he's the one that's been excited to see this update video, and we're going to go ahead and make his name the secret word of the day, Pee-wee's style. So the secret word of the day is Moyke. Also known as Mikey. I think his full name is Moyke Zenda Neubauten. Anyways, he's a cool guy. He's a character. He's on Laserdisc Forever, and he keeps us all on our toes. And had a lot that he was parting out not too long ago and sold a bunch of stuff. So I said, yes, I will go ahead and give you a shout out. So, shout outs to Moyke. Here's what he ended up selling me. First up is one I instantly regretted because I looked too quickly at what he had, and it was a film that I'd been meaning to add to my comments pile for a while. Sneakers, but it is pan and scan, therefore it is the devil. Therefore, this will be going to work. So, again, it's still good enough for work. Also got a copy of the Criterion Casablanca, but it's a little water damaged on the gatefold. So that one is going to work. And one that I've been meaning to show my wife for a while, I think she will dig this flick. Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep in a really, really cool flick. It's kind of become a cult classic nowadays, but Albert Brooks is Defending Your Life. Really funny flick. And a little hacked jacket, but I was looking for the widescreen copy of The Crying Game. So, got that sucker from him. And unfortunately, a bunch of these, it looks like they sat in the sun directly, so one edge of them is completely like blown out color-wise. That said, it was cool to get this because he looked up some of the routers for me that I knew. They were usually DADC releases from Columbia Pictures. And he gave me the thumbs up on a few and the thumbs down on a few others. But one of the thumbs up was In the Line of Fire. There is a Japanese release that you can get that's rot-free, but it was cool finding a nice-looking copy of that. So there was that. This thing has been on my list forever. There's a couple different pressings of it, and some have a commentary track with Bryan Singer and Christopher McQuarrie. This is that one. It is also strangely in the smallest Laserdisc jacket I own, The Usual Suspects, and it just kind of flops around in the jacket. I'm not sure how this jacket can be this small. I'm pretty sure there's some sort of TARDIS-like thing going on, because I'm pretty sure the jacket is actually smaller than the disc. But yeah, it just wiggles around. So this is the counterpart to Frankenstein Unbound, which is my largest Laserdisc jacket for a single disc. This is the tiniest. And another comment I've been meaning to pick up for a while. Not really like a movie that's like, gotta watch it 30 times, but Clint Eastwood's A Perfect World. So, again, something from the 90s that I wanted to add. And sadly, this one's hacked too. But not too bad, man. It's got the washed out edges, but maybe I'll trade up at some point. But it's kind of a crappy transfer anyways. But it is the fun Pioneer Special Edition of Basic Instinct, and yeah, it's a hot mess and all that stuff. But I really liked Jerry Goldsmith's Bernard Herrmann knockoff score. Awesome stuff. And another one he gave the thumbs up for as to Not Having Rot, another Columbia release. Really cool flick from Carl Franklin with Bill Paxton, One False Move. Haven't seen this in ages. Rented that on VHS back in the day. And, oh yeah, was super psyched to get this as well. Oh, again, it's all color faded on the side, sadly. And this actually came with a dead fly in it. So you know, Moyke is the man that's going to hook you up with sweet, chunky, juicy dead flies in your Laserdiscs. But Crumb, awesome Terry Swigoff film. And again, like, super sun-faded destruction there. But, you know, the disc itself is good, and yeah, been looking forward to having that in the collection for a while. And this one's in decent shape. Again, this is like perfect Laserdisc fodder. A Ridley Scott film that nobody really likes. You know, there's probably a handful of people that like it, but I just remember seeing the trailers for it because I was going to the theaters like all the time around when this came out. Maybe, 95, 96? Something like that. Yeah, nothing on the back here. Copyright 90 never. Maybe 96 or so. But White Squall. And this is like one of those things that's like, I don't really need it on Blu-ray. I'm getting it on Laserdisc. So, Moyke hooked it up. And again, I've been on a little bit of a Michael Crichton kick. I just reread. I got to do an actual media update video too, because I picked up his novelization kind of paperback version of, it's not a novelization, but a paperback reprint of his Twister script that he wrote with his wife at the time. And I was like, man, I still don't have this flick on Laserdisc. Barry Levinson's adaptation of Disclosure. So I get a little more Michael Crichton in my life. And yeah, disc looks good. Jacket looks tasty, minty. And another one. Yeah, I've seen this tons of times on cable, etc., but never owned on LD. And my man hooked it up. Backbeat with Cheryl Lee from Twin Peaks and many more. Cool flick. And these I was wicked excited about too, because I just picked up the Criterion Blu-ray of this not too long ago, but this is a different version altogether. I have no idea why I never picked this up back in the Laserdisc era proper, but Michael Mann's Special Director's Edition, Deluxe Letterbox Edition of Thief. So, wicked excited to have this sucker. And it's got commentary track, I believe, and a different cut of the film. So, yeah, really excited to have that. And another one, it's funny, I had seen this so many times and just always assumed that there was never a widescreen print of this on Laserdisc, because I think the cover looks essentially the same. Yeah, they kind of did the same thing with Lost Boys. Warner had some widescreen editions that didn't really have anything emblazoned on the front. But then I realized, whoa, this thing's widescreen, and I gotta have it despite having multiple copies on different formats. But Michael Mann's Manhunter. And right when I got the lot, I watched this that night. It was awesome. So, super excited to have yet another copy. And I believe this is, I don't know if the newest Scream Factory has the official theatrical cut, but I think for a while at least this had the theatrical cut. I know when it came out on DVD, Anchor Bay goofed up and released a slightly different version that really wasn't the theatrical cut. So this may be, outdated, so to speak, but still awesome to have. And one of those things you just gotta have, and I didn't have it yet. Of course, I own it on all sorts of other different formats, but letterboxed, Elite Entertainment, Dawn of the Dead Director's Cut, killer cover. I always loved that. My dad used to have that on a shirt. That image was the sickest thing. I think Cliff Burton from Metallica used to wear it all the time too. I used to always want to steal that from him. But yeah, really nice release, and my man Moyke hooked it up. Another one that was sadly missing from my collection, but I grabbed the widescreen collector's edition of Joe Dante's The Howling. Very nice disc, gatefold, and yeah, we'll be tearing into some Spotlight reviews of those guys at some point. And that almost catches us up, but I did finally get a package from Hong Kong in the mail, and I've been showing you a lot of my James Bond collections. I've got pretty much all the Japanese. I'm missing maybe 10 titles from every Japanese pressing, except for the rental gold copies of the James Bond series, and I'm slowly working through the American ones. But there are a lot of Hong Kong discs that are barely even known. There's a great, there's of course the Laserdisc database, which is a great resource for looking up what's out there for Laserdisc, but there's also a specific site that has information about 007 films, and they've got a listing of, I think the LDDB has most of the 90s kind of James Bond collection releases from Hong Kong, but the 007 website, the Home Video Archive, really doesn't have that many of these. And I've got one disc here that's I've never seen listed anywhere, so now I actually have to add it to the LDDB. But I started off seeing an auction that surprisingly nobody else bid on, because I actually know there's a guy out there, I think he's a Laserdisc Forever member too, that's on the hunt for all of the 90s Hong Kong James Bond NTSC discs. And so I won this surprisingly for next to nothing, and it is Live and Let Die. And they're it's fun. They got nice glossy covers, but the actual paper that they use for it is pretty cheap, because the inside's all covered in foxing and stuff like that. But they do look really nice on the outside. They're all I know this is not a Panavision film, but they're all pan and scan versions of the films, which is interesting, because all the Hong Kong action films I have are all pretty much letterboxed, but for some reason these were dropped on the market, pan and scan and or full screen. But super excited to have that. And then the seller reached out to me and was like, because I mentioned I'm specifically into James Bond films, and he's like, well, I do have some more. And I was like, cool, I'm going to have an HK Kevin Kobos. Kevin Kobos is the guy I go to for all my Japanese releases. But unfortunately, this guy said he was closing up his shop. I think he worked out of Texas, but knew a guy in Hong Kong, and they worked together, and I guess he was just getting out of the business. So unfortunately, this was the last gasp of his supplies, and I was like, well, I better get what I can get while I can get it. And he mentioned he had these, so I grabbed the Man with the Golden Gun. Again, they're not gatefold, which is too bad. They're just kind of crammed into the sleeve, but really cool stuff. Super excited to have those. And this one, again, is interesting as pan and scan. So as far as I know, it's the only pan and scan version of this film on Laserdisc. And it's got a pretty cool cover, Tomorrow Never Dies. And interestingly, on the back, it's actually got a hole cut in the Laserdisc jacket, where you can see the disc through it. Pretty interesting stuff there. And then he mentioned he had this, and fully expected me not to pick it up because it is completely dubbed in Mandarin. And I was like, no, I'm down for it. It's an NTSC Laserdisc and James Bond, and it's on the edge of bootleg. From Russia with Love, they kind of lifted the American release Bond thing on the side there, but this is not listed on anything anywhere, so I had to get it. And I watched some of it, and I almost swear they changed the music around a little bit too, or just kind of looped the James Bond theme a bunch of times in some scenes where it wasn't originally. So I really have to watch this whole thing and check it out. I mean, the transfer was mediocre. I was expecting it, but I'm still not sure if this is an official release or a bootleg, but it's from SAST Entertainment Limited. Yeah, all dubbed in Mandarin Chinese, so super cool to have that. And that'll catch us up for now, except for my new Kevin Kobos anime discs. So we're going to do that in another video. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks again to Maxine for hooking me up with those killer Hong Kong flicks. And thanks to my main man, Moyke, for hooking me up with all those sweet, sweet comments and that juicy dead fly. So thanks for hanging out. I'll talk to you guys later. Cheers!